色恋沙汰とは無縁な私がなぜイケメンを床ドン
Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama. Welcome to our channel, Paws On Animation, and our Paws On Netflix segment.
In today's podcast, we're covering the Netflix anime Romantic Killer.
This series is a callback to old tropes and cliches of Shojo manga. As a girl, Anzu is forced into a RomCom story by a small wizard she calls a demon. Stop wasting her life on video games and get a boyfriend.
Well, before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get updates on future podcasts and World of Paws videos.
Absolutely. And this is another one of our videos in the Ryan Colt Levy week.
Yes.
Our first time ever on Paws on Netflix.
Yes.
And Paws On Animation, period, where he plays one of the pivotal secondary characters.
Yes.
Yes. So this came out late 2020.
Yes.
I'm sorry, 2022. And there was a whole lot of interest on it on Twitter.
Right.
We watched part of the first episode, and for some reason, we didn't get back to it
Right.
this year.
And then we finally watched it now, and we're like, oh, wait, so this is what it's about.
Yes.
I think that when we watched the first episode, it was so manic, we were like, okay, we need a break.
But it ended up being really interesting, good, different from other rom-coms we've seen, total plot twist we didn't see coming, and of course having Ryan Colt Levy in it made it worth watching all completely.
Yes. And seeing that it was going to be one of those rom-com parodies, definitely wanted to watch it because you really hadn't seen a rom-com like this done in a while, and it was kind of filling in a void for a short time that people were saying that Shojo anime really doesn't come about like this anymore. You don't have stuff like Oran and Toradora and Ozaki really much anymore. It's a whole different landscape, so having this be a callback to those types of shows and mangas was a breath of fresh air for a lot of people. The only problem is that it was too short.
And also toward the end, it kind of stopped being a rom-com the last
3 episodes.
Yeah, and it turned more into the drama.
Yeah.
And again, the plot twist you didn't expect. So this is based on a 4-volume manga written by Wataru Momose, published by Shueisha and English publishers Viz Media. And the anime itself on Netflix is an original net animation based on that manga. 12 episodes long. And as you said, it was kind of shorter than we expected.
Right. And the way it ends, it kind of leaves it up in the air, like it could get a sequel or it could just stay alone. You leave up to your imagination what happens next, because there's a little question mark at the end of to be continued. So depending on how well it did, it could have gone either way. Right now there is I don't think there's any confirmation of a second season. So right now it's just staying one.
And the love wizard or love cupid is named Riri.
Right.
And it has this funny looking body and this little hat.
Looks like a toy.
Wand. And this really high pitched voice. And then later on, Riri becomes Riri a human. And then I knew Riri was going to fall for Anzu. Riri becomes Rio, Riri's twin brother, and ends up going on a date with Anzu. And that was one of the funniest episodes of the entire series.
And the whole running joke is that when Riri's a little wizard, she's constantly throwing them across the room, punching it, squeezing it, trying to rip it apart, throws it out the window, shoves it down the drain, like causes multiple accounts of bodily harm, and it keeps getting back up like nothing happened. And she calls it the devil because it keeps taking away all her stuff.
And I was going to get to that. So in order to get Anzu to participate, because she refuses to, she takes away her 3 greatest desires: video games, chocolate, and Momohiki, her cat.
Yes, that's it. It was like, what?
And then she ends up, Riri I should say, ends up sending the mom and dad on a trip to the States.
Yes.
So that
she could be alone.
Yeah.
She could have all the setups for a rom-com, and funny enough, if this was the setup here, it would be a whole different show.
Now the good thing about it is Anzu is a really good character. She's got a good heart. She's reliable. She's loyal. She's kind. She's crazy. And people are kind of surprised at how nice she is. And except for her best friend who knows. They say that she's always been like this. And she's, she's crazy about her because of that. So most of the people really don't know her.
Right.
Because she stays alone playing video games at home.
Right.
And staying to herself.
Right. And so the way they have it set up is that the way they have it set up is that it's going to be just like a dating sims game that they have a lot of in Japan, and it's always presented as some of the crappiest animation you've ever seen, and it's how the Shojo animes and mangas go, where there's one girl and a multitude of attractive guys, and you go on different dates, you pick which one you want to be with as the player, and it's sort of like that, only instead of like 70, you have just 3.
So the first one she meets is Tsukasa Kazuki, and he's a boy who is seen as the best looking boy at school, and of course, thanks to Riri, she ends up involved with him, not dating, but as friends, with something absolutely, positively that should have never happened. She breaks his phone.
Right. His house floods. You can't stay there. Everything broke. The pipes bust. She's like, how is that even possible? It all happened at one time.
So he ends up staying with her. Parents says, okay, because he can't live in his apartment, and he lives alone in his apartment. And as the story goes on, you get little bits of backstory as to why he's there living alone by himself. He works, he goes to school, you finally meet his older sister, and the backstory, he's got some really crappy parents. And that's all we'll say.
Yeah.
And he ends up being a really nice guy, although the girls at the school will never know this because all they do is chase him down, hunt him down. You were saying by his behavior, you had figured out part of what happens toward the last 3 episodes of this anime. You had figured it out.
Yeah, because of how the tone shifted all of a sudden. Usually when people have issues and quirks, it's some really... For a rom-com, sometimes it's mild, sometimes it's a little heavier, like when they have family drama and stuff. Well, it goes into drama, but it's not so much connected to the family drama. It's more like actually something really serious when it gets towards the end, which we're definitely going to get to. But that one scene was enough to know, like, okay, something has happened where it's not like you think.
So quickly, forgot to mention, Anzu is voiced by Deneen Melody, Riri and Rio is voiced by Courtney Lynn, and Tsukasa, who we just mentioned, is voiced by Jason Griffith. So secondly, she meets a character, another student, Junta Hayami. And at first he's voiced by Alex Lee, Aizawa,
Yes.
and Loi Loi. And at first she doesn't believe you because he says, oh, I knew you in school, and she was thinking that this was something she made up, and she's like, I don't know this guy, I've never met him, this is one of your lies, you're trying to trick me. And then she ends up finding out she actually did know this kid, played with him, and they were friends.
Yes, and true to the anime, he just looked one way as a kid, then he glowed up as he got older, just so he could get a girl.
He had a nickname of Tonta when he was a kid.
Right,
so...
like no wonder she was like a whole nother person.
Well, okay, think of this. You're in school. They have roll call, I'm sure in Japan as well. And they never heard him being called Junta Hayami.
I guess
All
not.
she knew was as Tonta, and she forgot.
I guess so. That's one of their most unexplained type plot holes in here.
So he ends up at her house because there's a cockroach and she needs it killed, and he comes to kill it. And then other crazy things happen. Well, he also ends up living or staying at her home as well.
And the two guys end up hating each other at first sight. It's like, that was quick. You didn't know each other's name. You're already jealous. And I was like, gosh.
And then, before we get to the third one she meets, then Tsukasa's friend Makoto Oda, voiced by Ryan Colt Levy, is his best friend, and he is really kind. He's kind of oblivious
A
and
lot,
airheaded,
yeah.
but he's really sweet, and he tries to support Tsukasa, and of course he knows his background and what's happening.
Right.
And we don't know that until further in. And he's able to read how people behave,
Mhm.
and he can read when he's uncomfortable. Well, he knows when he's uncomfortable because they're friends.
Mhm.
And before Anzu, Makoto is Tsukasa's only friend at this new school. So you like his character. I think he should have been in there more, not just because Ryan voiced him, but because he was a good character.
Right.
And you would like to see more of him. So now we can get to the third person that she meets, and that's Hijiri Kogane,
Yes.
voiced by Kellen Goff. We were surprised because we thought it was someone else.
Right.
And this, of course, is that trope wealthy, hot guy that always has to be in the rom-coms or an anime trope or in the Oshimi games.
Right. And it's clear he's really the biggest thing is that he's inspired by you know who in On High School Host Club. Tamaki.
So,
Yes, it's like they just did Tamaki and Killing Goff actually sounds so much like him. You almost
Yes.
thought for a second, like, did they get Vic back? I don't know. It's someone else, but they kind of imitated the inflections. And then another one they actually ended up referencing, and I ended up laughing at, was the fact that I had actually noticed when they had the intro, all the guys had varying heights. Like, they had one that was slightly taller than Anzu, one was really taller than her, and then this guy here is shorter than her. And I laughed because it's like some of the things they said was a reference to Nozaki-kun.
Yes.
And I ended up laughing at that. And then the biggest clue was when they all know, it's like, hey, you're kind of on the short side. And she said, a man's value should not be defined by his height. And it's like, okay, they know who's watching this. And that's what they're referencing.
Guys are being wealthy and thinking every girl wants him because before, you know, true to trope, before Anzu didn't want him, every girl wanted him. He has this thing he does with his hair constantly.
Yeah, and it gets
Constantly
annoying after a while.
Constantly. And it's like, stop it!
Yes, it's every 2 minutes he's doing it.
So, of course, you know she doesn't like him right up front. She falls for Tsukasa, she falls for Hunter, but she doesn't fall for Hijiri, but they end up being friends. He tries to buy her affections by buying her things, and then she said she didn't mean anything to her unless he got a job, so he ended up getting a job where she works,
Right.
and then he starts using his money to buy her things.
Right. And I think for me, he was probably like the least favorite out of the three, because it was funny the first time he came in. The first 2 episodes he was in, it was funny. He was just all doing it, having the same air about him as he's being a commoner. It's hilarious. Then after that, it kind of lost its effect, either because they weren't on him that long or because he was written differently. I don't know, he just wasn't as funny after those first 2 episodes. All his stuff started just being annoying, or just, okay, he's doing the same thing over and over again.
And the reason it was funny is because lots of girls have been throwing themselves in front of his car.
Right.
So they could get his attention. So Riri, of course, makes her do the same thing. And so his chauffeur, and I guess you could call him his au pair.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of
Sukiya.
like that, yeah.
Yeah, he noticed that she's different, and his behavior starts being different. Hijiri, because of being around Anzu and the things she says, and he's really happy that he's around her and being influenced by her.
You're right.
So every time that she needs something, he's offering to help. And every time she wants to go from somewhere, he's offering to drive her. She's
Right.
like, no.
It's like, stop.
Yes, but it was cute because he's like, oh, I've never seen him act normal. I've never seen him do this. Can't believe he's getting a job. And he was really happy.
Right.
And so last but not least, you have Saki Takamine. And she's voiced by Jenny Yokobori, who's done a couple other voices we know.
Yeah.
And that is Anzu's best female friend.
And she comes in, actually she gets focused pretty late into the anime, like right before it gets to the last 3 episodes, you kind of end up getting her backstory about how she and Ansu became friends and how she saw how she really was long before the wizard thing showed up with the devil. So you saw that she does stick up for her friends and people in need. She doesn't just let people get bullied or get villainized or anything like that. She does stick up for people a lot, and that's part of why some don't really interact with her, because they think it as butting in, or they don't know the whole story for who she's defending.
Yes. And Saki actually starts falling for Makoto after he notices that she feels uncomfortable. She's seeing someone in middle school who was not very kind to her. So he notices that and he takes her by the hand. So of course he's her rescuer, and he's sweet, so she falls for him.
Right.
But it was really very different than we expected it to be.
Yeah.
Again, the first 9 episodes were rom-com drama.
Yeah.
Funny,
Now it's
hilarious, and then you get to the last 3 episodes we'll talk about very quickly.
Yes. That's when the anime thing got to change, and if they were planning a season 2, I don't think it's going to happen now. A lot of people were into it until it got to the end, because we noticed it suddenly was dropped. No one talked about it anymore after a while, and we thought it was just because it was a trending anime for a time. But when it gets to the last 3, you find out why, I'm sorry, what's the orange hair's guy name again? The first
Sukuna.
one, Sukuna. Sukuna, why he's really nervous around girls he doesn't want to date.
I'm sorry, Tsukasa.
Thank you.
You know what
I'm thinking of Dr. Stone.
Tsukasa, yes.
Right. We found out why he's so paranoid around girls, and you're thinking, okay, it's gonna be something kind of minor, because they usually have jokingly things in this anime. Well, no, turns out if you haven't seen it, quickly, spoilers. Turns out he had a stalker who, and I don't mean like just did lighthearted type things, follow him around school, obsessed over him and being funny. This entire stalker thing is played completely straight. She's psychotic. She followed him for over a year. She drugged him. She slept with him. She did all sorts of things.
And here's the censure. She's 20 years old.
Yes.
And she was chasing this, at the time, 15-year-old.
Yes. And then, on top of it, parents thought he did something to make her fall for him and be crazy like this. And, again, it's not a joke. It's played completely straight for pretty much all of the last 3 episodes. And it becomes kind of disturbing to watch, because this woman isn't funny in the slightest. So I think that ended up changing the tone and how you felt and looked at the anime after that, because if there's a season 2, who knows if they will do something like this again and you don't see it coming.
Well, since it was only 4 volumes, unless they do something absolutely original for season 2, I don't think there's going to be a season 2. You don't even hear anything about it.
Right.
It was the first place winner of the second Shonen Jump's Vertical Scroll Manga Awards, and in 2022 it ranked number 12 in the next manga awards in the web manga category. So the chances are slim to none this will get a season 2.
Yeah, true.
But this is definitely one you should watch, and I wish we hadn't waited to see it this long ago, because we missed out on the hype and everything that was going on, being a part of it. It really is an interesting watch. It really is good. It's got great characters, memorable characters. Anzu is a great main character, and got some great, as we mentioned, secondary characters as well. It ends up being fun, except for those last 3 episodes, or I should say episode 10 and 11. It's really a great watch, and it's fun. And I caught that Rio had fallen. Rio's falling for her.
Yep, and you
Of
did on
course
the
there
very
was
last
one
episode. Yeah, that's right, because he also is becoming an unofficial 4th option for her.
Right. And I think he has to stay human.
Right, for
Can't
it
be
to
the
work.
devil anymore.
Right.
But if you've seen Romantic Killer, whether you've seen it later after it originally aired or during its original premiere, let us know in the comments below. Did you love it? Did you hate it or think it was meh? Do you have any favorite characters? Do you absolutely love Ryan Kovalecki's character?
Right.
Like we do. We wish Makoto had more lines and more screen time? Did you pick one of the guys to be whom you chose for her? We know you didn't pick Hidri. If you did, okay. But did you like Hunter or Tsukasa better? Let us know in the comments below.
Right.
If you haven't seen it, it's available on Netflix exclusively to stream. Give it a watch and come back and let us know what you think.
And if you haven't already, subscribe for updates and we give you his favorite anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
Absolutely. And join us tomorrow for our final video coverage in Ryan Colt Levy week. And you know what it's going to be. We don't have to tell you his most famous role today, Chainsaw Man.
Yes. So, thank you so much for watching Rascal Entertainment.
And the Mom Entertainment.
Have a fantastic day.
Peace.